This is Kerrigan and Company. Banking shouldn't feel transactional. It should feel personal. At Rockland Trust Bank, we take the time to get to know what matters for your business so we can support what comes next, not just today, but for years to come. Because when you have a banker who knows your business, understands your goals, and sees your vision, that partner can make all the difference. Come bank where your relationship matters. Rockland Trust Bank, where each relationship matters. Go to rocklandtrust.com for more information. Member FDIC. We're taking you out to the ballpark on this episode of Kerrigan and Company.
Kerrigan and Company is here for you. Yes, Kerrigan and Company is here for you.
Welcome, everybody, to Kerrigan and Company. So good to have you. It is spring, or at least the calendar says it's spring. I'm not sure Mother Nature's gotten the note, but I do believe that it's going to get warmer and it is going to be nicer. But I will tell you what is happening, and that's the boys of summer are back. Baseball is in full swing. And while our Red Sox, when I'm taping this, are not maybe getting off to a great start, it is so wonderful to have them back at the ballpark. And joining me today is someone who knows all about the Red Sox. Of course, she knows about sports in this city, period. Trenni Casey was with me before as a guest, but Trenni has come back to be the co-host, of course, from NBC Sports. It is so good to see you.
Thanks for having me back.
I'm so glad you're here.
I know. Glad to talk a little baseball.
I know you were sitting a seat over the last time. You know, I got to tell you, before we talk about baseball, which I'm excited about because you've brought a really cool guest today as well. But you were here like about a year ago, kiddo, and you were getting ready to run the MS, that big MS challenge.
MS run the US, yeah.
Yeah, so I have to get a follow-up. How did it go? Tell me all about it.
I ran all 161 miles across Wisconsin. It was an amazing experience. Like it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I mean, the training was really hard. It was 6 days a week of running. I got up to 75 was my peak week mileage. And then when I had to actually run across Wisconsin, my days, I gained, and people think, oh, Wisconsin, it's the Midwest, it's flat. I gained 3,500 feet of elevation in the first 2 days in like bright open sun, exposed.
And it was like you were running it in July or something,
I was running it in July. I ran June 30th through July 5th, I think was my day, or like maybe it was July 1st to July 6th. I don't know. Now it feels like a lifetime ago. And like I've washed it from blurry. My memory because it was so hard. But I finished. I ran all. I did my run walk program, and I did 31, 31, 30, 28, 28, 12 was my mileage for each day. And I got faster every day the way that I did it. It was awesome. And I had a goal of raising $68,000, and I raised, I think, close to $73,000.
Oh, that's so fantastic.
So that was the best part, to do that in honor of my aunt.
I was going to say, you're running it in honor of your aunt. Okay, so at some point, I can't even fathom. Day one, you're on adrenaline. And it's hotter than hell because I know what
it was hotter than hell.
I know what that's like there, and it's humid. Day one, you're on adrenaline. Day two, your feet hurt. I mean, what was the worst day in that? There had to have been.
So day one was actually one of the hardest days because while you know what to expect, you don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And so the day just felt really long. It was very, very hot. It was humid. It was hilly. It was exposed. And when I finished that day, my feet hurt, my legs hurt, my back. I went to bed and I was so sore, and I had a mini panic attack in bed. Like, I don't know if I can do this. I had to do this 5 more times. But then I got up the next morning, and the way that I arranged it, I felt okay. And my sister and my niece came to meet me. So I had something to look forward to on day 2. And they met me. I was about maybe 10 miles into my run when they met me, 6 miles in. And when I finished, they did 6 more with me. And I was way ahead of my niece, who, by the way, runs cross country. And at the time was between her freshman and sophomore year in high school. So she had fresher legs than I do.
Yeah.
And my sister, who's not much of a runner, but was like, oh, I can do this if you're going to be. She's like, I thought you were going to run really slowly. I didn't realize you would be like a half mile ahead of us. And so that kind of gave me a little bit of confidence. The other hardest day was day 5 out of 6, just because I knew I really wanted to hit 28 miles total that day. And while I had a huge group of people, by that point, I was tired.
I bet.
I was tired of running, the monotony of it. eating so much, an ice bath, and sitting in an ice bath and going to bed every night at 7:00. I was just physically and mentally exhausted. My husband was dealing with some health issues, so he actually had to go home early. So that was emotionally draining for me on that day. But the last day was great. It was a little overcast. The wind shifted. Sometimes you get that, by the lake, by one of the Great Lakes. And so I cruised in. I was running like an 8:30 pace on my way in on my miles like 160 and 161, which was awesome.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks. It was great.
That is unbelievable. Yeah. And since I've seen
now I'm golfing.
And now you're golfing.
Because I don't want to run anymore. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. I still run.
You got smart finally.
Yeah, exactly.
Good for you.
Exactly.
But you've also been to the Olympics since I've seen you.
Yeah. Well, okay. So this is the magic of television. Okay. Yes, I was a host for NBC Olympics again for the second time. I was not in Milan Cortina.
So you stayed here.
NBC does, I would say 85% of their studio work is done out of their headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut. Mm-hmm. So I lived and worked out of Greenwich, Stamford for 3 weeks, but it's awesome. I mean, it's such a great experience. And to work at that level, it's so different from working on a local or a regional level. I mean, the resources that you have at your fingertips. You have an entire research department. I had a researcher designated in my studio with me at all times. I had a writer designated to me in my studio at all times. I had hair and makeup. You have stylist and wardrobe there. I finally figured out there are two different things. A stylist tells you what to wear. A wardrobe person makes sure that your sweater doesn't have any pilling on it, that your earrings match correctly, that they get every little stitch and everything is fits you perfectly. It's a nice treat. I come back and I'm like, who's putting on my mics? Oh, right. I am. Right. Who's slapping makeup on in 4 minutes, where there it takes 45 and you sit in a chair and they massage your face at the start. It's amazing.
Am I shiny? Is anyone looking?
Oh, I know. No, and here no one notices. No one touches me up in the middle of the show. So if I'm extra animated, I'm shiny by the end of an hour-long show. But I mean, you're on air there. There were days on Saturdays and Sundays where I was on air for sometimes 10 and a half hours.
Wow.
Not nonstop, right? Because you're getting people in and out of different events.
Yeah,
but it's still, it's a different type of challenge. Yeah. And also it's not I now know who, Jonas Klabo is, House Flat Klabo.
Exactly.
I didn't know who that person existed.
You had to study and just to get the names.
The names are hard, but also there are some weird, I don't snowboard and I don't really watch snowboarding. So they'd hand me a snowboarding highlight and I would look at it and I'd be like, no, we are not calling, literally one of the things was a 360 drunk driver. I was like, first of all, I'm not saying that on television. Two, no one knows what that is. Tell me how many revolutions there are, how many twists in the air. I was like, what are we doing here, everybody? You're just talking about the craziest things, but it's so fun. And it kind of reminds me of an adult summer camp for 3 weeks, because everybody stays at the same hotel. We all work out of the same place. We see each other in the makeup room. Our dressing rooms are next to each other. You get to meet and hang out with people in the industry that have had a lot of similar life experiences as you. And I'm so blessed that
there's a real camaraderie in that. Yes. Yeah. And you really can't do it again. It's, you don't replace that.
No,
it's that group
awesome.
of people.
Well, I hope I can do it again. I hope I'm still around for LA 2028.
Do it, but I mean, you just don't replace that group and that experience.
No, it's wonderful.
That's so super. So what's going on with our Red Sox? Oh, yay. So as we tape this,
they're 2-7. Is that right? Are they 2-6 or 2-7?
2-7.
2-7 because they've lost 3 series, each 3 games, and that's 9. Math.
First off, wow, that was impressive. And secondly, wow, it stinks, man.
I mean, I'm not entirely surprised. I was more surprised at the number of people locally who set a bar of the World Series. And I was like, did anybody pay attention to what they did in the offseason? They lost guys that they didn't replace. Not that Alex Bregman is the end-all, be-all, but he was such an important piece, I think, to the development of guys like Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer. But my biggest frustration, and the Red Sox have been my AL team since 2003. I'm a long time, as we're taping this, the Red Sox begin a series tonight with my hometown Milwaukee Brewers, who I live and die with. They are my favorite sports team of all sports teams. And the Brewers, the Red Sox are trying to run their team like the Brewers, except that they have billionaire owners and the Brewers don't. They have Boston advertising and television deals, and the Brewers don't. So And if you want to draft and develop, then you need to have a good scouting department that can look and identify talent.
Absolutely.
And to prove my point, one of the players that the Red Sox acquired this offseason was Caleb Durbin, and he was third in Rookie of the Year last year for the Milwaukee Brewers. And I said to everyone, if they're willing to get rid of Caleb Durbin, that should be a red flag to the Red Sox.
Right.
Because the Brewers literally cannot afford to let go of high-level controllable talent. And so if they're willing to part ways with him, even if they have a flush minor league system, that means they have so many people behind this kid that they think are better. And now you're acquiring him to be your starting third baseman. And I do think he's got a great attitude, and he's kind of a dirt dog, and he's little and scrappy like Dustin Pedroia. But like expecting him to be Dustin Pedroia is asking him a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Spend some money, Red Sox. Spend some money.
Yeah. This is like my parents. I grew up in St. Louis, so my parents are Cardinals fans.
I know. I hate them.
They
ruined my life at 5 years old in 1982 when they beat my Brewers in the World Series, and I will never forgive them or the entire city of St. Louis, but I will make a special exemption for you.
Just for this moment.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, with a minor league team, they do the exact same thing, and they pull these kids up, and you watch them develop. My parents live for every moment of it. And then same exact situation, we'll go out and we'll pick up one of these Cardinals, and my dad's like, boy, well, good luck with that.
Right, like he'd run his course with us if we don't want him.
Get him off the field fast enough. Well, I think everybody's just hoped that the bats would come alive, and I mean,
listen. At some point, are they going to win only 2 games all season? Of course not. They will go through. It is a 162 game season, but. And again, I'm not around any team anymore like I used to when I was in clubhouses. It was my job. I was a sideline reporter for the Pirates and the Brewers for a long time, and I was with teams for MLB Network, and so I was around them all the time. But I'm not that old and detached that I can't understand when I go into a clubhouse and you have a win like they did on Friday, and I go in to get post-game interviews, and guys are on their cell phones and they're not talking to each other. They're not goofing around. Like a term like the kids use are like the vibes didn't seem great. Right? Like they didn't seem like a team that has, like there's something missing and I can't put my finger on what it is. Well, you've always
said that, that clubhouse atmosphere is
huge.
What it makes or breaks it. I've heard you say that before.
It's an intangible, like listen, does it mean someone's going to hit at the plate? Well, probably not. But I think when and obviously winning cures everything, but when you go into a clubhouse after a win and it's still sort of siloed, you just start to wonder who's the leader, who's bringing these guys together, what are they playing for? Like you have to still play for a team, you have to play for a common goal. And if everybody is just already feeling sort of disjointed and disappointed in one another, even in a somewhat individual sport like baseball, and I know we'll talk to Will about this, but I remember that 2013 team that won the World Series. They did not have top level talent. Like they were not a murderer's row of hitters and pitchers, but there was something about they played for the collective. And that to me can get a team that maybe isn't the most talented over the hump.
Well, we've seen that in a lot of sports in this city. We saw it down at Gillette. We're
seeing it right now with the Celtics.
Absolutely.
Celtics are not the most talented. I mean, even with Jason Tatum back and playing, I think way better than any of us ever expected him to. Yep. Part of why they've played so well this year is because I think they felt like, oh, you doubted us. You thought without Jason Tatum we were going to be nothing. And Joe Mazzulla's gotten everything out of them to put him in a position. So that can, I think, sometimes turn the tide from a really terrible season to a respectable season.
Right, absolutely.
Maybe even a winning season.
Well, we're going to talk to Will here in a few minutes, and we'll talk more about baseball. We do this thing here. It's called the Fast Five.
Let's do it.
Fast Five is brought to us by Rockland Trust Bank, where each relationship matters. You can visit your nearest branch or go to rocklandtrust.com and learn more. Okay, Trenni, are you ready?
Yes.
Who was your favorite athlete growing up?
Robin Yount.
Why do you enjoy mountain climbing?
Because I had a boyfriend who couldn't summit a mountain once, and I did, and then I fell in love with it. I tell truths.
Red Sox or Yankees?
Red Sox. That's not even a question.
Wow.
Ew.
All right. You just covered the Winter Olympics. What was your favorite sport to report on?
I did a lot of curling, and I love curling. But I guess a secondary one would be figure skating.
You said curling.
I love curling.
That about you. You got to tell me if you know how to do that.
Hurry hard? Yeah.
If you could be drafted by one professional sports team, who would you pick?
Does an LPGA player count? Because now I really like golf and I want to be a pro golfer.
She's a golfer, I know.
Well, I mean, I'm not a golfer. I have golf clubs and I hit balls. I'm not very good.
That would make me a golfer.
Otherwise, I want to be a brewer and I'd want to bring us the first ever World Series from the Milwaukee Brewers.
Well, I wish you could do that. That's for sure. All right, listen, we've got lots of fun coming our way. We talked to you about the idea of bringing in another guest. You gave us a suggestion. We've kind of given a little hint, but we won't say anything more. But we're going to chat with him on the other side. Trini, I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me.
being here. Absolutely. Stay with us, everybody. This is Kerrigan and Company. Some banks focus on transactions. At Rockland Trust, we focus on people. Relationships come first because financial success isn't built in a single meeting or a single moment. It's built over time by listening and showing up, by being in your corner through every stage of life or business. Come bank where your relationship matters. Rockland Trust, where each relationship matters. Member FDIC. Do you need to buy new technology? Let AGI Beacon help you buy better tech for less. The team at AGI Beacon understands technology from the inside out. AGI Beacon provides expert guidance to help businesses navigate complex technology decisions with clarity. With AI transforming business operations at an unprecedented pace, having the right advisory partner is no longer an option. Go to agibeacon.com today to learn how they can help you with all your technology needs. That's agibeacon.com. This segment of Kerrigan and Company is brought to you by Allure Matchmaking. Your forever after is waiting for you. Find them through Allure Matchmaking. Go to allurematchmaking.com today. Welcome back, everybody. Great to have you with us. We're talking baseball today, and Trenni Casey, of course, is with me from NBC Sports. It's good to have you here.
It's great to be here. I love baseball season.
I know you do. And I think it's, I'm like some of these other fans, you go, oh my gosh, I can't even believe, this is where we've started. But it is a long season. And, I think we've had other starts like this one that have been a little slow. And, we do finally turn that corner. Our next guest knows a little bit about baseball, and you suggested that he be here, and I'm so glad that you did. This is former Red Sox. This is Will Middlebrooks, and it's great to see you.
Hi, guys. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. You guys have been friends for a long time.
I think I've known Will since 2013, the infamous, wonderful 2013
It might
season.
even have been 2012.
It might have. Yeah, it might have been when you.
That was my first year.
Did you get called up in 2012?
I got called up in May of 2012, but everyone seems to black that year out of their mind. The Bobby Valentine, I think we lost 93 games, and then obviously you want to remember 2013 because it ended with the ring.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, right. It's funny how, as fans, we have this way of doing that, right? You block out those years.
We do the same thing, don't you worry.
Yeah, absolutely. You heard what I was just saying. I mean, and people are kind of rumbling a little bit, and you always do because you want to come out of the box strong, and obviously that first game, we thought we were coming out pretty strong, and then things went a little south for the weekend. But what do you think about this team?
I think the most frustrating part is on paper, you look at the players one by one, and you say this team should be a lot better than they're showing right now. And I understand the frustration. I understand the disappointment. I do also understand it's only been 9 games. There's 153 games left. But with that said, there's still a lot of worry. I wouldn't call it panic, especially inside the clubhouse. I would call it panic within the fan base and walking the streets and having people stop me going to Dunkin' to grab coffee going, what the heck is going on? How do we fix this? And I'm like, don't you worry. I've been laying in bed for the last week at night staring at the ceiling trying to figure out how I can fix it, and I can't do anything. I'm just a broadcaster. But historically speaking, I mean, teams that have started 2-7 with a run differential of 15 or worse, the odds are against them. I mean, I think in the wild card era, there's been 57 teams to do that. 54 of those have not made the postseason. You do the math. Now, at the same time, you're telling me there's a chance. I think there's a chance. I still trust Alex Cora. I know feels like he's on a hot seat right now. I know Breslow feels like that seat is probably warming up as well. And it all goes back to the offseason where all this started. They wanted the big splash. They wanted Pete Alonso. They wanted the power bats. But I take it back even further where the frustration started with this front office and the team, where the relationship was ruined with Rafi Devers. And you have to trade him because you brought in Alex Bregman.
Yeah.
And then you don't retain Alex Bregman in the offseason to bring him back. And he was a big part of this team. He was a big part of the success of the young players because there's a lot of those in this clubhouse. And then you look at the guys who you brought in this year. Those guys are struggling out of the box. So that doesn't help that case with the fan base because the guys you brought in are hitting 114. The pitchers you brought in have an ERA of over 6. So it all looks bad right now. I still stand packed on it's a long season. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I still have a little bit of faith.
Oh, a little bit of faith is good. Well, I listen to you a lot on the radio. And one thing that I love about you is that you're honest and you will assess what's going on at the plate and how a hitter in particular is approaching their at-bats and how the team as a whole is sort of approaching the game. And one thing you've been talking about lately is that you can kind of see that guys just their timing at the plate isn't there. When no one is hitting, how hard is it to find that timing and get in a rhythm as a team to start scoring some runs to help out your pitching and defense, which were supposed to be your strengths, but haven't so far been so far?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll be the first to tell you how hard this game is. You can look at the back of my baseball card, and that'll tell you how I feel about it. But this is, looking at it as a whole, I mean, it's such an individual sport when it comes down to it, of each individual guy needing to do his job and have a good at bat and put up numbers for the overall team to do well. But you start looking at just like team philosophy on the offensive side. And there's a lot of swing and miss. There's a ton of chase outside the zone. There's guys that are late on fastballs, early on breaking balls. We call that being in between. And that just goes back to the philosophy and not pointing just at the hitting coaches. These are professionals. These are guys that get paid to play baseball. So it's on them even heavier than it is the coaches. But it's got to be philosophy. It's got to be approach at the plate. It's got to be. It sounds crazy to say it at the big league level, but fundamentals, get back to the base of baseball. And it's got to be an approach. I mean, we talked about this team and how they were built, and they don't have the big sluggers. They don't have the guys that are going to hit 40 home runs and carry you in that type of way. So they have to play more old school type of baseball. They have to play small ball. They have to hit line drives. Yet their actions at the plate right now don't show that that's their plan. It looks like they are trying to be the guys that hit the ball out of the ballpark, taking massive swings, swinging at everything. And I think they just have to dial in their approach and playing at the plate to get more to the middle of the field, shorten up a little bit, put the ball in play a lot more because they're striking out at a massive clip right now. And if they don't have guys on bases, on the bases to be aggressive and steal bags and hit behind runners and play small ball here and there to manufacture runs, they're not going to win games.
Well, but how do you get back to fundamentals after spring training? I mean, you're playing basically every day at this point. So how do you sort of dial it back?
Well, you have to trust your vets, right? And one of those guys is Trevor Story, and he has a big voice in that clubhouse. But it's really tough for him when he's struggling as bad as he is to be that loud voice in the clubhouse. He can still do that. He can lead in so many other ways, just with his experience. But guys who the team just brought in, and Wilson Contreras, also a massive leader. You see Roman Anthony standing up in front of the media and kind of speaking for the team, which is wild to me considering he's 21 years old. Right. But his voice carries a lot of weight within that clubhouse just because of the person he is, the maturity that he brings, and how good he is. Honestly, that pays dividends. But they just got to lean on their vets, and there's going to be a lot of conversations that aren't at the ballpark. I mean, these guys have to get together and create relationships off the field where they gain trust, and they have to talk through this. And the vets have to step in and say, don't panic. This is a long season. For the most part, things tend to even out, and if that's the case, that would mean the team's going to get pretty hot at some point.
Yeah. So, Will, I think you've sort of answered this, but Trenni was saying earlier that she was in the clubhouse after the opening day and the first win. And she saw guys on their phones, and they're all sort of at their lockers, and there's not much going on there. And this is, your first game together, and you won. So, are you concerned about the relationships in the clubhouse?
No, not at all. I think that's just the world we live in now. Everyone's connected to their phone nonstop. I'm guilty of it. You guys are guilty of it. My kids want to be guilty of it, but they're too young, and I'm not getting them a phone until they're married. But,
which is never, by the way.
I did tell them they could date once they're married, and we'll figure it out from there. But no, I'm not worried about that. I think that's just the world we live in. These guys are actually really close, and it's actually a really likable team, believe it or not.
Good.
I understand it's Boston, and if the team stinks, everything's miserable, the broadcast stinks, the players are awful. I get it. When winning fixes everything, and that's I think that's in any line of work. When you do well, everyone's happy. These guys are close. There's a good group in there. There is a good leadership group, as much as people say there's not. They're just not playing well right now, and some things got to change. And when they play well, all those opinions will change.
What do you guys think about ABS?
I like it. I mean, I think it's exposing some of these older generation umpires who have awful zones. And it's either going to force them to get better, or it's going to push them out.
Yeah.
So I don't mind it. I like that. There's strategy behind it, and we saw the Red Sox kind of struggle with that early in the season by using up their challenges in not important spots, not high leverage spots, and be out of. I think it was in Cincinnati game 2. Roman got their last challenge used. It was wrong. And then they didn't have one the rest of the game. And they had one of the worst umpires in baseball behind the plate, and they couldn't use those challenges. So there's a strategy behind it, which has been a learning curve for all teams. But I think end all be all, it's good for the game. You want to get things right, especially late in games in those big spots.
Well, do you like the way that it's set up? Because when you do get the challenge right, like it feels to me like you can challenge a lot of calls, and I'd maybe like to see them pare that down a little bit so that you can only really use it in like high leverage situations. Because sometimes we see guys challenge ball, it's like, 1 out or no outs and nobody on. And you're like, what are we? I mean, I suppose that could spark a rally, but a little bit also of like, what are we doing in the second inning?
Right.
Yeah, we've seen that a few times with the Sox, whether it was Roman, which I just referred to, or Cedon in Houston. He had a play against the fence defensively the previous half inning. He missed it. And then he led off the next inning, and there was bases empty, no outs in like the 4th. And he challenges a call, borderline call, not a high leverage spot. Loses a challenge for the team, and talking to AC and some of the guys, they say, look, we got to make sure you take emotion out of this, because he was fired up and he wanted to be right. He misplayed a ball in center, so he was angry about that. And then you just got to take emotion out of it and use your brain, right? You have to make sure, if it's before the 5th inning, there's a couple guys on, there's scoring position, it's a close game, and you got to be sure it's a ball. It's got to be egregious if it's early in the game. If not, you have to make sure you have at least one challenge when you get those last couple innings of the game.
Sure, absolutely. Well, let's talk about Alex Cora, because you said, he feels the heat on the seat. There's no two ways about that. Your feelings about Alex Cora and the way that he's handled these teams the last couple of years?
I know the players respect him. I know the players love playing for him. Doing radio, we interview him before every game, and he's very transparent and honest. And I mean, he's a savant when it comes to the game, which I love. And I think the best compliment you can get as a manager is if the players will play for you, and they do, and they always have. I have nothing but respect for Alex, and any manager in Boston is going to be critiqued and picked apart, and all the negatives are going to be magnified, especially when you're 2-7 to start a season. But at the end of the day, Alex Cora can only play the cards he's given, right? Whether that's the bullpen that day, let's say Garrett Whitlock, his wife had a baby, he's not there, he's on maternity leave. He's had to use Aroldis Chapman and Justin Slayton the previous 2 nights, so they're unavailable, and you have to bring in XYZ who aren't your main guys, and you lose the game because of that. And he'll be crucified because of that and because of those moves. But there's so many baseball details and specifics within those decisions that maybe aren't understood as much on the streets of Boston and on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. So at the end of the day, I think Alex is a great manager. That has nothing to do with my affiliation with the team, me knowing Alex on a personal level. Just taking a step back and looking at how he has managed through the years, I think he's a good manager.
He's an incredible in-game manager. I think he understands the feel. He's not a slave to data and statistics in ways that other guys are.
That's a great point, Trenni. And not to cut you off, but like in today's game, it is so heavily analytically driven by the metrics and all the numbers that are pulled up on computers, and the analytical group for every organization, especially the big market teams, have grown to 100+ people in these analytical groups and offices. And I think Alex does a really good job of taking the temperatures of his players. He gets to know them on a personal level. He knows the situations in which they thrive in which they don't. So he has the analytics, and then he has the personal side, and there's a good blend of that when he makes his decisions, which I think that's something that's a lost art in today's game.
Well, can I ask you a more macro baseball question as a former player, but also someone who loves the game and is involved in broadcasting and understanding, wanting parity and better competition, I think, among all teams? You know, we're coming up on a labor agreement year, and it sounds like there's a lot of talk about maybe a possible salary cap or maybe something that resembles the NBA with sort of like different luxury tax structures and whatnot. How do you feel about that? And would players ever go for a salary cap that might just make it a little more equitable from the Dodgers down to, you know, my hometown Milwaukee Brewers, which are the smallest market?
Right. Yeah, this is a tough one, right? And this is first and foremost, I think baseball's in a really good spot right now. You know, as far as growth of the game, viewership going back up. I think the rule changes in the last CBA with the pitch clock and all that has really made the game more watchable in a world that everyone needs constant stimulation, and it's hard to sit still for 3+ hours. And now games are on average about 2.5 at a much faster pace. It would be a really bad spot for baseball to miss a lot of time because of everything I just told you, right? Everything is trending upwards. Baseball is back. It's really like the second biggest sport in the U.S. right now, as far as ratings have gone over the last year. So you don't want to go backwards in that aspect. When it comes to will there be a salary cap? Eventually, yes. I think it's also worded as a salary cap, and it's more of it's going to come down to the specifics when it comes to revenue sharing between teams and the details behind that, which we don't have nearly enough time to get into. So I do think if there is some type of revenue sharing cap or salary cap, you want to call it, there will be a floor. I don't think you can have one without the other, just because if you're going to bring down the top, whether the Dodgers or Yankees or whoever, and you're going to want to bring up the Marlins and the Pirates and these teams spending less money if you want to make that competitive, make it more competitive, obviously in the middle ground. So I can't fault a team like the Dodgers. You know, I always get asked this question, are the Dodgers ruining the game? No. I mean, they make more money, so they spend more money.
Yeah.
You know, and they have access to the Asian market with 3 of the best players that ever come out of Japan. And, you know, and those guys, the Sasaki, Otani, and Yamamoto. So I think 20 of their 76 main sponsors now are Asian. And they're pulling so much money from the media rights over there that the ratios are just different. I guess you can say move the goalposts, whatever. They're spending the same amount of money ratio-wise as a lot of teams, but they're making that much more where it just feels like a drop in the bucket for those guys.
Well, it's only fans like Red Sox fans who are saying things like the Dodgers are ruining the game.
Well, I don't know. My team's lost to them in the NLCS a couple times lately. I'm kind of like, you stupid Dodgers.
But I mean, you know, we had a time here where it wasn't Dodger money, but we were spending a whole lot more money than what we're spending now. And I think that's really hard for fans to take because they recognize that it's the same management and it's the same ownership, and things have changed. And that's been a really bad pill to swallow, for sure.
Yeah, I think people have been upset with the lack of spending. But I will say, if you don't care, I would rather have people. I mean, Will, I'm assuming you agree with this. You'd rather have people be angry about how things are going than not care at all, because there's nothing worse than apathy in sports.
Oh, no, you're spot on. And I think that's something what drew me back to Boston. You know, I played for 5 organizations in my career, and I knew I wanted to get into broadcasting at some point. And I'm thinking, all right, I could go to Texas where I played, which is home. I grew up there. I grew up a Rangers fan, but I did fall in love with the '03 Sox, you know, as a freshman in high school. And, you know, the Trot Nixons of the world. I love those guys. And obviously I played here and won here and experienced the highs and the lows of Boston both in 2 years. You know, last place in 2012, win it all in 13, awful again in 14, get traded. Like, I experienced everything here, whether it was a minor leaguer or a major leaguer. And I knew this is where I wanted to be because, to your point, Trenni, people care. Yeah. They care when you're good. They really care when you're bad. And they always want to somehow find a way to make the team better, whether that's just their opinion, whether it's on talk radio, whether it's the news, whatever it is. People care and they listen and they show up, good or bad. And that's what I love about this place.
Well, one thing I think about Boston fans is they don't take winning for granted. I really don't think they do. People try to say all the time that, oh, we had so much winning, here in Boston. People just were. I don't agree with that. I think
it's an
the last
expectation
25 years, I'd say the younger generation.
Yeah.
I don't want to use the word spoiled, but if you look at the last 25 years of Boston sports compared to the previous 50 plus,
right,
there's been a lot of winning. So, to your point, I don't think they take it for granted. I just think the expectation has been raised.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and that's okay, I think, right?
I love it. It should be.
That's part of, I'm sure, why you're happy to be back. Hey, we're glad you're back. Thank you for being part of Kerrigan & Company. Really appreciate it today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thanks a bunch, Will. All right, let's take a break, everybody. When we come back, we're going to be talking to an author about a really cool book. You won't want to miss this. This is Kerrigan & Company. If you're tired of endless swiping, superficial chats, and first dates that go nowhere, it might be time for something different. Allure Matchmaking offers a refined, confidential, and human-centered approach to finding love. For more than 2 decades, executive matchmaker Jill Vander has coached and personally hand-selected matches for successful, discerning singles. No dating apps, no public profiles, just curated, meaningful introductions with people who truly align with your goals, values, and lifestyle. If you're ready to meet someone of your echelon, visit AllureMatchmaking.com and level up your dating life. It was a cold, miserable New England winter, and we all felt the effects. Even our skin took a beating. If you're looking for a fabulous skin refresh this spring, visit my friends at Sienna Aesthetics Medical Spa in Beverly and sign up for their 3-session chemical peel package. They use medical-grade chemicals that'll clean your pores and strip your skin of those winter doldrums. And the best part? No downtime. Set up an appointment today. Go to siennaesthetics.com. That's siennaesthetics.com. Welcome back, everybody, to Kerrigan & Company. Of course, it's great to have Trenni Casey with me from NBC Sports. Trenni, first off, we're having a great time. Will was fabulous, huh?
Will is a great guy, and his wife is lovely.
Well, and we haven't said who his wife is. They did
a whole article in the Globe about it. Jenny Dell.
Yeah, Jenny Dell is his wife. Yeah. So
lovely couple. Their kids are wonderful. Yeah. Will is great. Will is always great.
They're never going to date until they're married.
Their children, yes.
But they're not dating until they're married, he said.
I mean, that sounds like a really great plan, Will. We'll see how that goes for you.
Yeah, good luck, my friend. Our next guest has been in baseball for 30 years. 30 years. Wow. You don't look old enough,
old,
Ken. No, you are not. This is Ken Davidoff. And Ken, you have written about baseball all your life, and you've actually covered the sport. I mean, you haven't been just writing books about baseball.
Right.
You've been following teams, and you've been right there in the heart of it. And you decided to write a book. Now, this isn't your first book, is it?
It is my first book.
It is your first book.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe you had written another one. 101 Lessons from the Dugout. And I told Ken that I spent some time with this book because I am a firm believer in what this book stands for.
I appreciate that.
Which is the idea that sports teaches you a lot more than just how to play a sport. It really does. And so what brought this about for you?
Yeah, so it's interesting, Kim. So as you said, I covered Major League Baseball in the grind, as Trenni can relate, for almost 30 years. I'm still involved a little bit. And I got burned out. Like, I couldn't write one more column. I'm based in New York. All the columns are like, what's wrong with the Yankees? Like, they've lost 5 straight games. Like, write a column about what's wrong with them. Like, I probably wrote 100 of those columns. And, who are the Mets going to get in trade? Find out. Chase down that trade rumor.
Sure.
Chase down hundreds of those trade rumors. And I reached a point right around age 50 where I just said, I can't do this anymore. And coincidentally, right around that time, this book opportunity came to me. I co-wrote this with a gentleman named Harley Rothbart, who is a parenting expert and retired pediatrician. This book is really his baby. He came up with the concept of his book he had the perspective of coaching his kids in Little League. So he invited me to be his co-author because I can infuse the book with my perspective, having covered the game at the highest level.
Sure, absolutely.
Did you learn any lessons? Like, was there something that he sort of wanted, a direction he wanted to go where you're like, wow, I never looked at baseball that way?
Yeah, I mean, he has a unique mind, Trenni, and like a lot of the analogies he came up with, like just to give one example, like tagging up. So when you're a young player and you're first learning the intricacies of the game, you're standing on third base, less than 2 outs, long fly ball, run, right? But you don't run, obviously. You have to learn how to tag up. So he equated that to anger management, the idea of always in life, take that moment to tag up, right? If something happens,
get a breath.
Exactly, take that breath. And so that's one of the ones I think is particularly applicable to kids of all ages.
Absolutely.
Even me at 55 now, there are times when I react immediately like, no, let's tag up and then we'll deal with this.
Yeah. I loved by the way, this is a great book, not just for young people to read, which it certainly is an easy read for them, but it's a great book for anybody who, like dads and moms, who want to be a coach for the Little League or for the kids, and maybe looking at it from a bigger perspective, that there's life lessons to be learned here, not just a game to win.
Right.
Not that everybody needs a trophy. I'm not really necessarily a believer in that either. But I think I think I get what the idea behind it. I loved the one, the idea of, not everybody gets to play or is in the starting lineup, and that's life. You're not always in the starting lineup, but when you get your shot, you need to be ready for it.
Exactly. That's chapter 2. That's one of my favorite, the starting lineup. So right off the bat. And I can relate to that as a poor Little League player. But I wouldn't start, but if I came in the 5th inning and made a big catch on right field and my teammates were great, they would all celebrate for me, and I went home that day feeling great. And the idea of translating that concept over the other parts of children's lives or adults' lives, you try it for the school play and you don't get the lead role, but you get that role with 2 lines, crush those 2 lines and win more stage time the next time.
Do you have a lesson in here of the 101 that is your favorite, or one that you always come back to, when you do things like this and talk to groups about why you wrote the book and what it's about?
So Trenni, the one I tend to pick out a lot is chapter 23, small ball, because I apply that to my career. And the idea, don't swing for the fences, in life. And especially, now I've gotten some pushback from current Major League players who are there's no more small ball in Major League Baseball. It's all home runs. Okay, well, let's table that for the moment. But the idea being that in Little League and in life, just focus on moving the runners over, just piling up runs. And I don't know, my career, when I started covering Major League Baseball in 1995, I just tried to start forming relationships. Look at that good interview Davidoff had. It wasn't a bombshell, but there were some interesting nuggets of information there. Oh, look at the 8th paragraph in Davidoff's story today. He had a detail that no one else had. And then through that small ball, I was able to climb up and eventually hit some home runs, And when you swing for the fences, sometimes you strike out, but that's okay if you've established that foundation.
100%.
What I also found interesting about that one in particular is you talk about how when you swing for the fences too, and I think in broadcasting or journalism, we do this a lot, where young people now, I think there's so many outlets for them that they think they can be at the top right away.
Ooh.
And that it's not a bad thing to start small where you can make mistakes.
You got to learn the business. Learn it.
Yeah.
Learn those
and whatever business it is, right?
Any
You're not,
business.
I mean, I even say it's not just in media, but I have friends who work in all different walks of life. And my husband's an attorney, and he's like, you get these summer associates or first year associates come in and they want to be taking depositions. Well, that's not how you start. Right. You have to, and that's okay, because you don't want to make a big mistake at the top level. You want to make your mistakes when you're younger and it's not catastrophic.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm sure you experience this too, Trenni. At the sports journalism level in particular, and I'm going to sound like the old man here shaking his fist at the lawn, but these 23-year-olds, I got a hot take. The Red Sox should fire Alex Cora. That's my hot take. Nah, you're 23.
Right.
Why don't you calm down?
Also, cool, you and 500 other people.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I will tell you, though, the small ball issue, Will Middlebrooks was just on, and he said that's what's wrong with the Red Sox.
Yeah.
They need small ball.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's
and
really
he's
funny
only
that
in
you
his
just
30s.
said that.
So there are still young players who feel or ex-players in Will's case, who feel like they should play more small ball. You know what else I liked? It's not just baseball. It's 101 lessons in baseball and softball.
For sure.
Which I love that you included the girls,
Of course.
which is super.
I mean, softball is exploding, right? I mean, there's a professional league now that Major League Baseball is funding that the great Kim Ng is commissioner of. And, obviously the games are obviously quite similar, so it's easily translatable.
Absolutely, across the board. So you've stepped away from baseball a bit here. What do you think about the game?
Well, it's interesting, Kim. I think on some levels the game is tremendous. My line is, had Rob Manfred introduced the pitch clock earlier, maybe I wouldn't have quit so soon. The pitch clock is great. This automated ball strike system seems to be working very well. These incredible superstars, Shohei Ohtani in L.A., Aaron Judge in New York, and a lot of exciting teams. On the field, I think the biggest issue is there's too many strikeouts, which I think is a byproduct of the pitching being better than it has ever been in any time in its history. And then off the field, the biggest issue is the payroll disparity. The other major sports in North America have salary caps. Major League Baseball does not. So you have the Dodgers with $400 million, and then the Miami Marlins with barely $100 million. And that is a problem that they need to address.
So I asked Will about that because he's got a unique perspective, having been a player, but now also being on the other side. And none of us want to see a lockout because baseball is finally, I think, growing again. People are liking it again. But how do they get there? How do they get to a point where the Dodgers are going to be willing to share more of their revenue with the Pirates and the Marlins? But also, how does Major League Baseball hold those teams accountable? I covered the Pirates back in the day, in part. Their ownership has never wanted to invest in their team. They pocket all this money they make and they don't invest it back in their team, which is a huge problem.
Humongous problem, Trini. And I think there are a few different ways to do it. One way, is salary caps and floors. And I know the head of the players union said, we will never accept salary cap. I think if he did a better job of polling his own players, I think you would find a fair amount of them are actually okay with that. If it would elevate the floors and force the Pirates and the Marlins and the Sacramento A's or whatever they're called to spend more money, I think they'd be okay with that. Another way would just be they have this luxury tax. So the LA Dodgers signed Kyle Tucker for $240 million. They're paying double, essentially. They're paying the other $240 into the pot. Maybe that needs to be tripled. Maybe it needs to be quite something that at some point the LA Dodgers would say, okay, we're not going to sign Kyle Tucker because it's just too much.
Yeah.
I've also wondered, would an NBA style work where the NBA has that first apron and second apron, and the first apron it's monetary, but then when you start to get into the second apron, it affects you draft wise.
Absolutely.
The types of trades you can make. I think there are creative ways that they can make it more equitable. As I've said on this podcast 100 times today, I grew up in Milwaukee. I'm a huge Brewers fan, and they do such a good job of drafting and developing players, but then they get to the postseason and they just don't have those money bats and pitchers that can get you over the hump. And I wonder if just a little bit more equitable playing field allows for everybody to maybe have one or two of those superstars.
I agree, Trini. And the Brewers are always the example I use. You want to point to the Pirates and the Marlins and the A's for pocketing revenues? Yeah, go ahead. The Milwaukee Brewers don't pocket revenues. The Milwaukee Brewers do a great job. They just happen to play in Milwaukee. It's a small town.
Right.
Twan Fonz and Laverne and Shirley, there's just not a lot there.
People like it. People love to visit. It's
clear.
really lovely in the summer, everyone.
But it's just hard for it to compete with LA and New York and Boston.
Now, I don't want
it's not exactly a hot spot where players are like, where I want to play? Milwaukee.
I like Milwaukee. I know you love it.
I really
like
Kim's. No, it's okay. Kim's from St. Louis. I jump on St. Louis all the time.
St. Louis is terrible. Forget about St. Louis.
All right. So if we're backing away a little bit from baseball, what's the future going to bring for you?
Well, I've been out off the hamster wheel for 4 years now, Kim. So this is my first book. I happen to teach at Endicott College up here in Beverly, Mass.
But you live in Manhattan, so tell us.
It's a hybrid model, so roughly 50-50. I get up here about half the time, and then I Zoom from Manhattan or other locations the other half of the time. But I love teaching, and I love Endicott. They have a great culture up there. Go Goals! And I really have enjoyed my experience there.
I have never heard anyone say that out loud. I don't think. Oh God.
I don't think I knew that they had a mascot, but now I do.
They do.
Will you write more books? Did you enjoy the process? Because people say the process of writing a book is really difficult.
Well, see, Trenni, I'm sorry. So this book, again, I mentioned it was Harley's baby, my co-author. So it's not like we started from scratch. He had a completed manuscript that he then allowed me to kind of roll up my sleeves and get in under the hood. So I'm not sure what'll be next. But I'm going to promote this through the baseball season.
Absolutely. Yeah. How has that been? How is life out on the book tour?
I'm really enjoying it.
Are you?
I have a big ego, Kim, so I like talking about myself. Last week I was on Rich Eisen in LA, and I was in Morning Joe, and I was on Brian Lair and NPR, MLB Network. Yeah. So it's been
I've
a lot
seen
of
you
fun.
everywhere.
Yeah.
You've been everywhere.
Do you miss covering baseball? Like, are there aspects of it that you miss?
Well, the best part is, Trenni, so, I guess I would say I don't miss the rat race. I miss the rats, but the people, charmingly called rats. But I managed to maintain most of those relationships.
Good for you.
Like, God bless that.
Have you been able to get off social media?
I was off for 4 years, and now I'm back on.
Was it the most lovely 4 years of your life?
It was fantastic, fantastic. But now promoting this book.
That didn't push you out, did it? Did social media?
Oh, that was definitely a factor. Yeah,
Was
Kim,
it?
if you gave me the time, I could give you 1,000 reasons why I got out.
Yep.
And social media would be in the top 25.
Would it?
It was that bad?
Yeah, it was just, the pressure to keep it going.
Absolutely.
And then I tried to not look at the comments, but I couldn't help myself. And the viciousness and the cowardice from all these anonymous people.
And just think you're an adult.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
This is what I frequently think about social media. You're not 14.
Yeah.
And being affected by it.
I tell
like
people all
that.
the time it's the worst part about what we do.
It's the worst part about society. Period. I've decided to be known.
It's got to go the other way at some point, right? Yeah. I feel like everything ebbs and flows. Like we got to get to the point where these things just go away.
That's one I think is going to be tough to get rid of. Where do we get the book?
So you can get the book hopefully at your local bookstore, and then at Amazon, and the publisher is Bloomsbury on their website as well.
Yeah, it's a cool book. It
Thank
really
you.
is. Congratulations
I
to you.
appreciate it.
101 Lessons from the Dugout. Ken, thanks for being part of the show.
Thanks for having me.
Really
It's
great to see
both
you.
of you.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Let's take a break, everybody. When we come back, we'll wrap things up.
If you like rum, you're going to love Rumson's Rum, New England's most award-winning rum brand. Rumson creates distinctive and savory flavor profiles by hand-selecting and marrying the finest barrel-aged Caribbean rums. The spirits are then blended and finished in the New England Rum House. Choose from Rumson's Gold, Spiced, Grand Reserve, or Coffee Rum. Find Rumson's at liquor stores or ask for it at your favorite restaurant. Learn more at rumsons.com. That's rumsons.com. Rumsons. Life lived, life enjoyed.
This segment of Kerrigan and Company is brought to you by Sienna Aesthetics Medical Spa. Take years off your face with the very latest technologies at Sienna Aesthetics in Beverly. Well, we're at that time in the show when we wrap things up. Trenni Casey has been keeping me company today. This has been really fun.
It's been really fun.
Book is cool, right?
The book is very cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a read, and then I think I'm going to send it out. My nephew is 11. I know it's a little, I think it's more for kids 12 and up, but he's a pretty smart kid. I think he will really enjoy it.
Well, he can keep
baseball.
it, and then time will.
Should have had Ken sign it. Oh, goodness gracious.
I'm sorry we didn't do that. Well,
it's all right.
We haven't had a
Next
chance to talk about your show.
Arbella Early Edition with Trenni. Yes, weeknights from 6 to 7 on NBC Sports Boston. It's basically like, I liken it to Felger and Maz. So we're on right after Felger and Maz, which airs on our air. Less anger. And only an hour, right? Like, I don't get quite as worked up as squeaky Maz and angry Felger, but we talk about, whatever is, today we're going to talk, probably a lot this week, we'll talk about the Red Sox and what's going on and what should happen. And sometimes we also tackle, bigger issues. What happened with Gino Auriemma and Don Staley from South Carolina. So we talked when Harrison Butker gave a speech at a college and how that was received. So they're pretty good about allowing me every once in a while to have a platform to maybe tackle issues that are not sports centric, but in that orbit.
Absolutely.
But not necessarily X's and O's, which is an awesome opportunity.
That's so great.
Yeah.
It is really, really great. Well, you do great work. And Boston is so lucky to have a woman like you in sports.
Thanks.
That
it's nice to be here. It's my home now.
Yeah,
it is
absolutely.
My home. Boston is my home.
Even though we know that she does like the Brewers.
I do love the Brewers. So sorry, Red Sox, but I hope you get at least 2 more losses. I just want a series win. I'll always take a series win.
Right, exactly. You'll be sitting in the back, not yelling, but you'll sort of be cheering a little bit.
Little fist pump when they do well.
Any more runs for you coming up? Anything like that?
No.
You're not running Boston, obviously.
I'm not
this
running
year.
Boston.
Yeah.
I will be on the course, though. I probably will try to get back into it, but I promised my husband Well, not promise, but basically if I want to spend time with my husband and our favorite couple, I have to learn how to golf. So I have spent my winter at an indoor golf simulator over 5-iron over in Government Center, learning how to golf. And I'm going to take it to the links this Saturday. I'm going to go outside and actually play. We'll see how my game translates.
Well, I'm going to wish you the best of luck. I know. You'll be great. It'll be great. And that's such a good thing to do together, so it's fun.
Yes.
Absolutely. All right, Trenni, thanks so much
Thanks
again.
for having
Thanks
me.
for coming in.
Yeah.
And thanks to all of you for being a part of the show today. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure you subscribe. And if you don't follow us on social, we certainly hope you do. We'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Kerrigan and Company. To find out who will keep me company and be my co-host on the next episode, be sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, X, and TikTok. Kerrigan and Company is recorded at the Big Night Studios at the TD Garden in Boston. You can view the podcast on YouTube and listen to it wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure you tell a friend. The executive producer of Kerrigan and Company is David Thompson, and our social media managers are Grace Kerrigan, Colby Thompson, and Riley Thompson. See you next time.